Is it I don't have?
Oh, okay. It's working.
Oh.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the live.
So I should put my hat on then?
Yeah.
It's time.
It's showtime.
Hello. Alrighty. Is it
All right,
up?
John, so go ahead.
We're up?
We're on.
All right. Beautiful. Okay. Well, here we are. Our very first live. I'm John from Designed Elegance Pastry Shop. And we are going to do, instead of our lesson behind the scenes that can be edited, we're just going to do it right on the spot here. So we're going to have a lesson where we're going to make some pumpkin loaf batter. That's what we're going to make for tonight, seeing how Thanksgiving's coming up and the holidays are around the corner. We'll be doing some Christmas cookies in the next few episodes, so you want to stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, tell you a little bit about this batter here. It's a very, very basic recipe. Simple, easy to do. You don't need any extra equipment like a big fat mixer or any type of weird gadgets or anything like that. This is something that anyone can do at home. So because it's pumpkin batter, we'll start with the very first ingredient, which is pumpkin. Okay, I'm going to start with a 15-ounce can of pumpkin here. All right, it's basically about 2 cups. So we'll get this opened up. Carefully not to cut myself. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to start with our pumpkin in the bottom, in the bowl. Okay. And, oops, missed a little bit. Basically, the idea, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our wet ingredients and we're going to combine them together. And then we're going to take all of our dry ingredients, we're going to combine those all together. And then we're going to blend the two. We're going to fold them together so that the whole thing, it retains its volume, so to speak. So let me get that up. We don't need that. Okay, so here's my 2 cups of pumpkin. Next, I'm going to add some eggs. Okay. Now, when I do my eggs, if you've watched my videos before, you'll notice that I like to crack into a separate cup. Now, when I do my eggs, 1. You turn the volume all the way down. Okay. So there's our 4 eggs. Now, the reason I used the cup here is because if there's a blood spot or an eggshell or whatever, I don't want that going into my mix. So by just having 1 egg in the cup, I can have control and I'm not ruining my mix with something that I don't want in there. So anyway, so there's the eggs, and now we are going to need 1 cup of oil, which I just happen to have all measured out right here. So we'll add that right in. So for our wet ingredients, we have, let's review, 1 can of pumpkin, 4 eggs, and 1 cup of salad oil, vegetable oil, whatever. Okay, we'll set that off to the side. Now I'm going to take this bowl here, and we're going to start with our flour. Okay, for the flour, we're going to need 3 cups. 3 level cups. 1, 2, and there's your 3rd one. Okay. And And now we're going to take our granulated sugar. Okay, now we need 2 cups of granulated sugar. 1, 2, okay. And the rest of the recipe is very easy. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Oops. And they can be slightly heaped because you can never have too much cinnamon, of course, especially if something that's for the holidays. There's 1. And yeah, it's slightly heaped, but that's okay. There's 2. Okay. Wipe the table off. Okay, so now there's the cinnamon. Now, that was 2 tablespoons. Now we're going to move over to our teaspoon. Okay, now a teaspoon is 1/3 of a tablespoon. So, that's the measurement on that. You need 2 teaspoons for this recipe. We're going to do 2 of the baking soda. And then we're going to do 2 teaspoons. Now this is, you want to level it off with the leavening agents here. So we're going to do 2 teaspoons, nice and leveled off, of baking powder. Okay. And then we need to add just a little bit of salt too. So we'll use, might as well stick with the 2 teaspoons again. 1 and 2. Okay, so let's review. We have sugar, flour, cinnamon, baking powder, and baking soda. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, one thing I forgot, the super duper vanilla, which we need to put into our wet ingredients. This is, of course, made by my friend Anita. She donates it for our wonderful lessons here. Okay. Now, what I want to do is, I'm going to whisk all this together. Okay. Basically, I want to, once the cinnamon is equally incorporated in, then I know that everything else is too. And what we want to avoid is pockets, you know, like a big chunk of sugar or a big chunk of flour, or worse yet, baking powder or baking soda. Because what that'll do is take away from the rest of the mix, but also it'll make a spot that's wrong. Okay. So there's our dry ingredients all mixed together. Now I'm going to take the same whisk, move it over to our wet ingredients, and I'm going to just very gently whisk this smooth. Okay. Now once it's somewhat incorporated, I can whisk a little harder. But what I'm looking for is for this all to become smooth. Basically, I want my oil and my eggs to disappear into the pumpkin. So, there we go. Doesn't need to be perfect, of course. And you don't even need to scrape it with a spatula. And you can't overmix it at this point either. Okay? But at the same time, you get to a point where you don't really need to keep mixing. So, alright, so next we're going to simply take half of this flour mixture, we're going to add it into the wet mixture. Okay, now I know from experience that the whisk is not a good tool to use on this process, this part. It's just going to get mucked up and it's going to be very difficult to use. So I'm going to switch over to a very firm, rigid spatula here. And like I said, I'm going to take half the flour, I'm going to add it in, okay, and it's just roughly half, you know. And a little more than half would be better than a little less, okay. So now what I'm going to do is just mix this in gently, okay, and I'm going to take my wet from the bottom, turn it over so that it covers the dry, Okay. You just keep going around like so. Okay. Basically, I'm trying to incorporate the dry into the wet, so it's not just a big stir, so to speak. Okay. So now once I've got most of the dry incorporated in, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to add the rest. Okay. So now I know from experience that it's easy to do a big poof at this point. So what I'm doing is I'm actually pushing the flour down into the bottom. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it over again like so, like I was doing before. Okay. Now it's going to be very stiff at this point. Okay. The batter is going to seem very clumpy and rigid, so to speak. But you just got to keep working it. And it does smooth out, I promise. You just want to keep going over it like so. And basically I'm just scraping from the bottom and turning it over onto the top, and I'm basically creating layers of wet, dry, and then when I come back and just do a little smooth out like this, then it all pretty much incorporates together. Okay, now I see just a few little spots of tightness. Those are flour spots, which need to be mixed out. But before I do that, I'm going to come by and I'm going to add about one cup of mini chocolate chips. So, and it could be a few less or a few more. Okay, it's to taste and to flavor. Okay, so that looks good. Now we'll mix those in. Okay. Nice and gentle. And the process of mixing those chocolate chips in basically finishes the process of mixing the flour in. Okay? So now we're nice and smooth. Nice batter. See how nice and pasty and consistent it is now? Okay, you wouldn't have thought that it would look so smooth before when we had all that flour on top, but this is exactly how it should look when you're ready to put it in the oven. Okay, so next step we're gonna take a loaf pan. Okay, this is a full-size loaf pan. I'm going to use my pan spray here. I'm going to give it a nice, generous spray. Okay? Make sure you get all the way up to the top. And then give it an extra little swoopy. Because, you know, this is a rich batter and you're going to want to make sure that your pumpkin loaf is going to pop out nice for you when you're ready to take it out of the pan. Okay, so I have my loaf pan ready. And I know from experience that this batch, it's actually going to make 2.5 of these. Okay, but I don't really need that much. What I like to do is use one loaf, and then I like to make some cupcakes. Okay, so that people can grab and go if they want to. And then you can also do a few different variations with the cupcakes. Okay, that's always nice. And then we'll have the loaf too. And then even still, we might even have a little bit extra batter that we can save and put in the freezer for a later date. So let's line these cupcakes, this cupcake pan. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the cupcakes, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop just a little bit over, but you know, it's only because I have this scoop. You folks at home, you're going to use a tablespoon or a spoon. If you do happen to have a scoop that you got from, you know, the grocery store in the utensil aisle, you know, these cookie scoops are very handy for all kinds of things. So I would suggest you get one. And what you're looking for is for about the cup to be about 2/3 to 3/4 full. Okay. Keep in mind we used baking soda and baking powder, and there's eggs in this batter. So these little cupcakes, muffins, whatever you want to call them, are definitely going to grow. Okay. So let's finish scooping the pan. Slightly heaped, just like so. Now this batter is nice and tight, so we don't have to worry too much about dripping and running across the pan, which is always nice. Saves on the cleanup. Okay. Now notice I'm moving it around. What I'm trying to avoid is getting like a clump of chocolate chips in one spot. Okay, I want to have a nice even mix so that when you take your bite, you've got a chip in each bite, but not 10 in one bite and then none in another. So, all right, almost done here. We'll do one more. Okay. All right, now we're just going to set this off to the side for now, and then we're going to come over to our loaf pan. Okay. Now, like I said, we're going to have enough to do a loaf along with our cupcakes and then have some left over. So, you don't need to worry about making sure that you use all this batter in this loaf pan, because I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to end up with too much batter in the pan, and it's going to take way too long to bake, and by the time it does get done baking, it's going to be very, very dark and crusty around the edges. The inside may get done, may not. Like I said, it takes a long time for this batter to bake in the first place, so you don't really want to overfill your loaf pan at this point. Also, like I said, you have baking soda and baking powder and eggs. All three are leavening agents going into this batter, so it's going to grow. It's going to grow. So you have to account for that before you put it in the pan. Okay? So I've only put this is only like, what, third full, maybe, if that. I think that I could use just a little bit more. Okay? I'm going to go with just a tiny little bit more. One little scoop here. Okay? Now I still have this much batter left in the bowl. Okay? I'm going to save this for another time because, one of these days my wife, she's going to be like, John, I have a craving for pumpkin bread. And wouldn't it be nice to just pull a little cup out, bake her 2 little cupcakes and say, here you go, have some warm pumpkin bread, honey. So anyway, so I'm going to save this for a rainy day like that. And in the meantime, okay, actually let me show you how I'm going to package it down, okay. Might as well do that while we're here. Okay, so I've got a little plastic cup. All right. I'm going to take my last scoop here, put that right in the plastic cup. Now is a great time to get the last of the batter out of the bowl. Okay. This is good stuff. You don't want to waste it. Okay. So here we go. Now, the best way to keep batter, put that over here for now. Ah, thank you, sir. Okay. My little helper. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have my little cup of batter. What I want to do is I want to take a little piece of saran wrap and put it right on top and then push it right down onto the surface. Okay? Just like that. Okay? You don't want any air getting at that batter. Okay? So, now basically you'd want to put a label on here. Okay? Maybe use a Post-it note. Mark it, label it, and now I'm going to take the whole thing and cover it around. Okay, so now I'm basically wrapping the whole thing all the way around. So it's basically double wrapped. Now this can go in the freezer. Probably last about 3-4 months, depending on your freezer. If you have a lot of freezer burn action, I wouldn't keep it that long. If you can keep it nice, well, you're probably going to bake it sooner than that. So you might as well just keep it until you want it, and then pull it out and eat it. Okay, bake it off and eat it. You'll have a couple muffins fresh. Okay, so now this guy is basically ready to go in the oven, and we wanted to do a few variations. Okay, so what I want to do is just take some of these. Okay, we have 11. I'm going to take and put some, these are chopped walnuts. Okay, I'm just going to put a little handful of chopped walnuts on these ones here. And it's just right on top, and not too many. You don't want to put too many because they'll just fall off later. It's because, like I said, this batter is going to bake. It's going to push them. It would actually just push them right off. Okay, so there's that. And then I think on the other ones, we want to do some large sanding sugar. Okay, this is basically clear sugar sprinkles. Okay, it's sugar, but it's very coarse. It's very coarse sugar. Okay, so this is fabulous stuff for putting on top, like so. Okay. You don't want to do too much, because then it'll change the batter. But a little bit on top is nice. Okay.
John, the
Yes.
coarse sugar, that comes in different colors, right?
It does come in different colors. This is regular white. You can go to the grocery store. You can find it in many different colors. Keep in mind, this is coarse sugar. Okay, a lot of the sprinkle sugars, okay, that are colored are probably going to be fine sugar. Now, fine sugar in this method does not work so well. Okay, fine sugar, what's going to happen is you're just going to make a big shell, a big sugar shell over it. What you want is the coarse sugar, big chunks of sugar, okay, and then sprinkle them on so that they can kind of stick in as the batter bakes. Okay, big difference. So, okay, so now it's time to turn the oven on. It's been off for a little while. But anyway, so got the oven on. Now I'm going to bake these at my normal baking temperature. Now what I call normal baking temperature is 350 degrees. Well, actually 340 degrees. Okay, typically 90% of whatever you're baking out of a cookbook is going to say bake at 350 degrees. I prefer to bake at 340 degrees. That gives me just a couple of extra minutes, a bit longer of a window to pull my product at the perfect time after it's baked, but not too dark or too dry, too burnt, whatever. Okay, so that's why I prefer to bake at a lower temperature. Now I'm also baking in a convection oven. So in a convection oven, you need to figure there's going to be a 50-degree differential with a convection oven because of the fans blowing the air. Okay, so I actually have my oven set at 290 degrees. 50 degrees, add 50 degrees for the convection. Now I'm at my sweet spot, which is 340. Okay, so now 340 degrees to 350 degrees, whatever you feel comfortable with in your oven. You know your oven at home. So anyway, these cupcakes, they're probably going to take a good 25-30 minutes. Okay, and the loaf is actually going to take more like 40 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes, okay? Now, what we're going to look for when the loaf is done, okay, let's back up. For the cupcakes, when the cupcakes are done, they're basically just going to be firm on top, and they're not going to sink in the middle when you pull them out, okay? You should be able to touch them, and they should spring back a little bit.
Hey, John?
Yes.
We have a comment from Susan Garrett. She says, thanks for the sugar tip. Thanks for tuning in, Susan.
You're welcome. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that.
Make sure you share the live so people can see it.
Yes, please share. Anyway, that being said, where was I? The loaf pan. The loaf pan is going to take a good 35 to 40 minutes, I would say, to bake. And what you're looking for is for the sides to be pulling away, okay? You want to have just a little bit of give in the center on the top, but you don't want to have you don't want to pull it too soon where it's going to sink all the way down. Okay, so it should be firm on the top, and if you want to take a toothpick and stick it in, just to be sure, it should come out with just a little bit of chocolate on it, no batter. Okay, so, but keep in mind, it's always best to give it an extra 5 minutes if you're not sure. With the oil content of this batter, there should be no problem with the moisture content being kept later on after your baking process. Okay, if you were adding water and milk, if that was one of the major ingredients of the wet ingredients, then I would say be very careful about that. But being oil doesn't go away. It doesn't evaporate in the oven. So it's going to hold its moisture content in your cupcakes and in your loaf pan. It's going to be wonderful. It's just going to give it a very long table life too. So, all right. So I think that my oven is just about ready. I'm going to pop these in. Now I did bake a set already. Okay, so you folks don't have to hang around for the next 40 minutes to see how these are going to come out. Because God forbid, what would I talk about? Anyway.
Well, we can tune that. We can actually start the live again so they can see the finished product.
Yeah, well, I made preparations for all that. We don't have to worry about that, folks.
Okay.
So basically, once my light goes up, my oven is hot. I'm gonna put these in. I'm gonna bake them. Okay. But just before this whole thing happened, before my friend Dan got here, I baked a set just like this already. Okay. So let's take a look right here. Okay. Look, it is what it is. Okay, let's move this. Okay, so notice you have just a little bit of edge. Okay, you can see how it's pulling away from the side of the pan. That's what you're looking for. You want to pull away from the side of the pan. Also, notice that the loaf is still mounded. Okay, it didn't sink. That means I baked it long enough. Okay, it's hard to bake this batter long enough. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to be your first challenge. First time you try this, you're going to want to pull it sooner than later, and it's not going to be done. You just gotta get over it. And you just gotta bake it. Okay, so now this is still warm to the touch. It's not hot by any means. Been out of the oven for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes now. These, like I said, they've been out a little bit longer, okay, because they took less time to bake. So, notice here how we have the sugar, okay? See how those baked in nice? See these cracks? Okay, that's where the batter grew, okay? Now, keep in mind, this pan looks just like this pan to begin with. See the size difference? Okay, that's how much they bake up. Okay, see we got the nuts here. Now they baked in nice right here. I got the sugar on this side, the nuts on this side, and then the plain loaf over here. Now this, I could actually put a cream cheese icing on top if I wanted to, but quite frankly, it's best just like this. And if someone wanted to take an individual slice, put a little cream cheese on it, or maybe some sour cream or some butter, whatever. Oh, it's fabulous. But if it's warm out of the oven, or if you're eating it with a meal, I wouldn't recommend putting anything on it. I just eat it the way it is. So, anyway, you want to try one?
I guess I would.
What do you want? Here, come on around. Here, let me pop this guy out.
Hello, everybody.
Meet Dan the man behind the camera, making it all happen for us. Always got to say thank you.
You're the magic guy, though.
You
make
this
this
happen.
happen. This is the magic.
All right, so we'll put this off to the side. I'll bake those. Here, let me turn this off. I'll take care of that after.
Okay.
Okay, so let me grab a rack. These are the walnut and the sugar. I like the sugar ones myself.
Take the sugar one.
But there you go. Let me get you a napkin. And I wanna
Oh, people, I wish you were here. This smells so amazing.
Oh my god. Here you go.
All right.
Okay, so what we're doing is, this is just a regular cooling rack, glazing rack, whatever. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put my hand on top, give it a little tapper, shake a shake, and when I feel that the loaf is in my hand and not in the pan, I'll lift it off. And there you go. You want to let this finish cooling, okay? When this is done cooling, it can be wrapped all the way around, just like I did the batter cup, okay? Basically, pull the wrap out, put your product on, go over, around, up. There you go, okay? How is it? Is that happening or what?
Money.
Yeah, I think I'll try one too. All right, some cream cheese icing to really hit the spot right now.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. All right, let me take a knife and cut this little guy here so we can take a peek. Oh yeah, look at that. Not too many chocolate chips. Okay. Definitely a dark looking batter. Now remember, all that darkness came from our cinnamon. Okay, so there's a lot of cinnamon in there, folks. Not only that, well, with the pumpkin too, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a go. Oh yeah. See what I mean with the sugar on top?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that give it just a nice little kick on the after
It also
bite?
gives it a nice crunch.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that little crunch. And then,
And it seems to give the top almost like a sheen.
yes, absolutely.
It's a delicate sheen, but it's a sheen nonetheless.
Now tomorrow, okay, basically we'll wrap some saran wrap on top of these, okay, and they're going to become, I'm good, they're going to become cakey, okay. So what's going to happen is your outer shell crust will become less crumbly and less crisp, and the center, okay, the moisture that's still in the center will basically flow out, but you'll still have that crunch from the sugar,
Right.
even though the whole thing is nice and moist and yummy.
Right. It's just like when you're cooking meat. You have to let it rest for 10, 20 minutes.
Exactly.
That way the juices distribute through the rest of it. Same concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was definitely good.
Bravo, man.
All right, let me finish my bite. Well, folks, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you had a good time. And even if you didn't learn something, I hope you were at least entertained. So, remember,
Susan wants to know, can I leave it in the pan to cool?
you can, but you're not going to want to let it all the way cool, and you're certainly not going to want to put it in the fridge or anything like that before you pop it out, because what you want to avoid is you don't want it to stick in the pan. Okay, you want to pull it out before it creates a seal and seals into the pan. Okay? I hope that answers your question. So, anyway, folks, just remember, when you bake with love and joy and passion, it's always going to be delicious. So happy baking. Thank you very much.
That's a wrap. Got it.
Cool. So that was what, about a half hour?
That's a wrap. Got it.
Cool. So that was what, about a half hour? So I put a third the chips in.
Okay.